What's up YouTube, Joe again, and I'm back with another video in my 7-day miniseries, 7 Days of Alien. And tonight I'm going to be reviewing 2012's Prometheus. Alright guys, so I want to get a little deep about this movie. There are a lot of people out there that do not like Prometheus. They do not like Covenant, they do not like the prequels. So I'm going to challenge you tonight to go into this review with an open mind. If you saw Prometheus the first time and you didn't like it, and you didn't give it a chance after that, I'm going to challenge you to rewatch this film and try to give it a chance. Because I think Ridley Scott intentionally wanted to do something different. We were pretty much at the point when Alien Resurrection was over with, we were Alien fatigued. We had pretty much done everything we could possibly do with the Alien franchise. And Ridley Scott knew that. If he was going to come on board for another sequel, he wanted to do something different. He wanted to explore different possibilities in the Alien franchise. He wanted Prometheus in the trilogy films to be in the same universe and be respectful to the Alien franchise, but at the same time to be able to develop its own mythology. And that's exactly what we get with Prometheus. Now, one of the cool things about Prometheus that a lot of people don't realize, there's a lot more kind of hidden Easter eggs in this film that if you do a little bit of research online, listen to the interviews that Ridley Scott talks about this film, talks about Alien Covenant, he really had some big plans for this for these prequel films. And the more I've read about it, I'm just blown away. I really wish that, I don't want to go into this because I really do enjoy Covenant, but we all know Covenant kind of basically changed trajectory with when they released Covenant. Ridley Scott was like, okay, we kind of need to go back to the Alien franchise a little bit. But his original idea of the sequel to Prometheus was absolutely ridiculous. I mean, it was going to be phenomenal, okay? Now, maybe it comes down to, film budget. Maybe it comes down to critical response of the film. I think a lot of things played into Prometheus not having the proper sequel that Ridley Scott was looking for. But Ridley Scott, when he was talking in several interviews after the release of Prometheus, and when the Prometheus sequels were kind of in limbo, where we didn't know if we were going to get a sequel to Prometheus, Ridley Scott had talked about where he wanted to go with his trilogy, what he was planning to do. But at the same time, he was very selective and very careful not to give away his true intentions of the trilogy. But basically what he said was that there's a deep underlying meaning to Prometheus. Now, for you all to not know this, but Prometheus was a Greek god. He was the creator of mankind. Now, in Greek mythology, there was Zeus, and there were the other gods. And Zeus and the gods, basically, they wanted to keep their power as gods. And so they saw that humankind was getting a little too strong. And they didn't want mankind to become so powerful that they could overpower the gods. So to be able to maintain their power, they wanted to unleash a plague on mankind that would kind of not kill mankind, but bring it back down to a reasonable level where they could manage mankind. Mankind was getting too powerful, the gods didn't want that. So what you had was Prometheus. Prometheus wanted to steal fire from the gods and give it to mankind, so that way mankind could survive, and the gods wouldn't be able to hold back mankind. And I think that's really deep. It's really deep when you think about the scope of this movie. And this kind of plays into what Ridley Scott wanted to do with these films. In his sequels, when he kind of talked about it, and he gave away a lot more than he really wanted to. And I think that's why he decided to kind of change directions a little bit with Covenant and bring it back to a little bit more closely tie in with the original films a little bit more. Well, what his original plan was in the second film, we were going to see Dr. Shaw and David as they were embarking to find the engineers. And along the way, we were going to learn more about the engineers and their plot to kind of not destroy the human race, but, you know, kind of like a reset, kind of push us back a little bit in our development, make us kind of more prehistoric, more manageable for the gods. And so we were going to get kind of like a, not really a war, but we were going to see Shaw and David kind of fighting back to save humanity from the engineers, okay? And I think that was pretty cool. Now, if you think about that, it's pretty far out there. I think a lot would have had to go into making those movies. And I think Ridley Scott felt after making Prometheus and the response that it got that he couldn't make the trilogy the way he wanted to without completely losing the fan base. I mean, it would have been almost like a completely new series. It wouldn't be Aliens anymore. It'd be Prometheus. So he wanted to ultimately, even before he created Prometheus, he wanted to keep it respectful to the Alien films, keep an Alien-like quality to it, keep it linked to the Alien franchise, but at the same time, explore new possibilities, create new mythology. So he toned it down a little bit with Covenant, and I respect that. At the same time, you know, it developed a little bit on the engineers. It wasn't quite what we thought we were going to get, but it developed a story from Prometheus, and I can respect that. So, my challenge to you going into this film, think about the possibilities this film could have had. Think about the undertones in this film and all the little Easter eggs after watching this film that Ridley Scott put in this film to really make you think about things, okay? The thing is with Ridley Scott films, it's not all about explosions. It's not all about, you know, shooting guns and blowing things up and these, you know, ridiculous special effects scenes. Ridley Scott is a storyteller, okay? He relies on good storytelling, atmosphere, and a slowly suspenseful, you know, well thought out plot. And that's what we get in Prometheus. It's not meant to be this, you know, big blockbuster, you know, explosions in every scene. You know, what we got with James Cameron's Aliens. That's pretty much the complete opposite of Prometheus. You got Aliens, which is over-the-top action, and we got Alien, which is pretty similar to, in my opinion, pretty similar to Prometheus. Same kind of feel in the film. Two sides of the spectrum: over-the-top action and masterful storytelling. That's what you get with Ridley Scott. And to go from what we saw in the last film with Resurrection to go all the way back to the start with the same style as Alien with this Prometheus film and even Alien Covenant, a lot of fans just couldn't do it. They couldn't go back to that style that Ridley Scott created with Alien. Even though they all might like Alien, it's the film that created the entire franchise. They just couldn't go back. They were used to the action-packed films that we got from Aliens on. But I love this film. I just love the story. I like that Ridley Scott took a different direction with this film. This film is amazing, okay? I love Prometheus. I wouldn't say that it's completely flaw-free, but it is pretty damn near close, in my opinion, to being a perfect film. There's just so many good things in this movie. I love how we explored humanity and explored our faith and made you really question. When I watched this film for the first time, I'm pretty religious. I went to church, you know, a lot as a kid growing up and everything. I have my faith in God. I wouldn't say this film didn't make me question my faith, but it really did make me think about what's out there. Just like Alien, when I saw Alien for the first time, what's out there? What's out in space? Are we alone? Are there other godlike creatures, people that are more superior to the human race? Are they out there? Are they overseeing us? Those are the kind of questions I ask myself when watching this film. And for a movie to do that is really revealing on how well of a film it is, okay? You don't get that with these other films. You don't get that with Aliens. You don't think about our human faith. You don't think about, what's out there. You're just thinking about, okay, these aliens are going to come along and they're going to kill the crew one by one. We're going to get non-stop intense action scenes. That's what you're going to get. So I credit this film for being, really thought-provoking and just thoroughly entertaining. Right. So getting into the plot of this film from beginning to end is super suspenseful, okay? It's one of those slow burner films where it basically gains momentum as the film progresses. And I really enjoy that about this film. This film is awesome and kind of like a scientific standpoint. Also, it really makes you think about your humanity. Think about, space exploration, similar to Alien. I like those aspects of this film. I like really thought-provoking films, and this film definitely does that. So we have an ensemble cast. We've got Michael Fassbender as David. We have Noomi Rapace as Dr. Elizabeth Shaw. Charlize Theron as Meredith Vickers. Guy Pearce as Peter Wayland. And then Logan Marshall Green as Dr. Charlie Holloway. Awesome cast. I really enjoy this cast a lot. They remind me a lot of the original Aliens cast, and also kind of like the Colonial Marines a little bit. We get a little bit of a kind of bickering back and forth. We get some comic relief here and there. Just a really good cast. They seem like they fit well together. They play off each other's characters. The different characters in the story play off each other. I really enjoy it. So this film, basically we see Dr. Shaw and Dr. Holloway. They are archaeologists, and they are sent to. They go into these different caves, and they are looking at these different ancient civilizations, and they find these cave paintings of different depictions of stars. Okay, these different stars in these depictions, ancient artifacts, they all match up, and there's no way that these ancient civilizations could have been in contact with these other planets, because these planets are so far away they wouldn't be able to see them. So the only thing that Dr. Shaw and Dr. Holloway can think is, okay, maybe there was these ancient civilizations were somehow in contact with another alien species. So Peter Wayland, the CEO of Wayland Corporation, we all know this from the previous films, he is fascinated by this and sends Dr. Shaw and Dr. Holloway and a crew on board the Prometheus to investigate this planet. They come out of hypersleep after they've made the mission to this solar system. Once they come in within range of this planet, they come out of hypersleep, and we see Michael Fassbender's character, David. He's an android, and he's been kind of watching over the crew while they've been in stasis. And they awaken after basically being in stasis for 8 years, and they embark on this mission to go down to this planet. Now, they send a team to go down to this planet to go check it out, and there's this artificial structure on this planet that there's no way that could be a natural existing structure. It's man-made, so they know right away that, okay, this has got to be where these aliens are at. They go into the structure. They find these monoliths that have like human characteristics. You basically like a monolith face. So they know that they found the right place. There's breathable air down there. So the species, this alien race is terraforming down there in this structure. And there's all these little vials that have this like dark ooze coming out of them. We all know these are where the aliens come from. Okay, these little vials of ooze. And so while David's down there, he actually sneaks one of these vials back on board the ship. And while on board the ship, David is experimenting on these vials. He dips his finger in one of the vials and kind of dips it in one of these drinks and serves the drink to Dr. Holloway. And, ladies and gentlemen, this is where the birth of the Alien franchise begins. So, like we've seen in Covenant, we all think that David is the father of the Alien franchise. Is actually Dr. Holloway, and that's pretty cool. So he dips his finger with this ooze in it into the drink that he gives to Holloway. Holloway and Shaw, basically, they're in love with each other. They end up having sex together, and he ends up impregnating Dr. Shaw with this hybrid alien fetus, okay? Dr. Shaw doesn't know she's pregnant. Peter Whalen is actually on board the ship, and he's in stasis as well, but the crew doesn't know that he's in stasis on board the ship. They all think that he died before they sent him on this mission, and they're on this mission to, live out Peter Whalen's will to find this species, but they all think that Peter Whalen's dead. He's actually alive and well on board the ship. He's elderly, but he's on board the ship, and his goal is he wants the crew to find this godlike species, these engineers, and he's hoping that these engineers can basically prolong his death, or maybe even keep him alive. So David takes Peter Whalen's down to the engineers because David knows that there's an engineer that's actually still in this structure and that's in stasis. So they're going to go down there and they're going to wake up this engineer, and hopefully this engineer will be able to keep Peter Whalen alive. Now, Dr. Shaw goes down there with them, and she kind of finds out that these engineers, these godlike creatures, they're not there to protect mankind. They're there to destroy mankind, to almost hurt us, okay? So she knows what's going on. And she comes back to warn the crew of Prometheus, we need to get out of here. We need to destroy these engineers because they are planning to eradicate mankind. They are planning to go back to Earth and unleash chaos on humankind. So while they're down there, Peter Whalen and David are trying to communicate with the engineer. The entire 8 years that the crew of Prometheus was in stasis, David, as an android, was learning, different languages. He's probably diverse in thousands of different languages. So he just happens to know how to communicate with the engineers. So when the engineer comes up out of stasis, David's communicating with the engineer, and a really badass scene happens. The engineer just basically rips off David's head, and then just basically smacks Peter Whalen across the room, across this little place they're at. That was a pretty cool scene. He just kind of like slaps him. I'm not gonna say the word, but slaps the guy to death. I mean, Peter Whalen just flies across the room and pretty much dies. So Shaw knows that this engineer is getting ready to bring this ship back to Earth and destroy mankind. So she warns the crew, we need to stop. This is our only hope to save humanity. We have to crash our ship. We have to crash the Prometheus into the engineer's ship. Otherwise, it's going to go back to Earth and it's going to wipe out mankind. So that's what they do. They crash the ship into the engineer's ship. Before that, Vickers, she's like kind of the character of Vickers. She's kind of overseeing the entire operation, and her and Shaw, they get they get off the ship in time before the ship crashes into before Prometheus crashes into before it crashes into the engineer's ship. The engineer's ship, as it's crashing into the planet, ends up crushing the escape pod, their only way off the planet, and ends up killing Vickers. Now, there's one thing I forgot to talk about. This entire time that this is all going on, Shaw was pregnant with the alien fetus from Holloway. So earlier in the movie, the pretty cool thing was there's like this machine on board the ship that that Vickers has, and her kind of like she's got her own little private cabin where she resides at, you know, in the film, and it's kind of like her own like she can actually escape from Prometheus. She's got like if she had to actually get off the ship, she could self-contain herself in her little cabin. If anything else happened on board the Prometheus, she could survive in her own little cabin on there by herself. So she's got like this machine on there that can operate on her and save her in the event that she becomes mortally injured. And this thing can sew up wounds. It can do surgeries. I mean, it can heal her if she's sick. I mean, it can do all kinds of things. You just basically type in the command. You give the machine command of what you want it to do, and it does it. So Shaw knows that she's got this alien fetus inside of her, so she rushes to get to this machine to have this machine basically cut this thing out of her. And the only thing I can say about this scene, it's badass, okay? It reminds me of 1979's Alien when we get to see the chest blaster when the alien fetus explodes out of the chest of Kane. And when we all saw that movie for the first time. It was the most epic thing we ever saw. That's how I felt when I seen this. I was totally not expecting for that surgery scene to happen. I mean, it was over the top badass. It was so suspenseful. You heard this music and the really suspenseful music in the background. This machine's basically cutting into her stomach. I mean, she's screaming for her life. She's saying, "Get it out of me! Get it out of me!" This thing's basically pulling this alien fetus out of her. It looks like a squid. And then it sews her back up. She's pumping herself full of adrenaline to keep herself alive. I mean, that scene is just over the top crazy. And every time I see it, it just blows me away. But, so yeah, this alien fetus is basically contained inside this machine. And so, at the end of the movie, when the Prometheus crashes in to the engineer's ship, and the only thing that's left is this escape pod where it's got that little machine where the alien's inside of, this engineer's furious because now, Shaw destroyed the engineer's ship, so he's coming after Shaw. And David is warning Shaw, look, this engineer's coming after you. So the engineer catches up to Shaw on board this escape pod, and like kind of like a battle, begins between the two of them. The engineer attacks Shaw. She's trying to fend off the engineer, and she actually releases this alien who's actually, at this point in the movie, the aliens come to full adult maturity, so it's this, it looks kind of like a face hugger from the previous movie, but it's just larger. It's like a larger face hugger. And it attacks the engineer, okay? And the engineer is trying to fend this alien off of it, and Shaw escapes, and she goes and saves and saves David. David tells her, look, I know I kind of betrayed you, but I'm all you have. All we have is each other, and I can help you get off this planet. I know where there's more engineer ships. I know how to navigate them. We can get another engineer ship, and we can get out of here. And she doesn't care about getting off the planet. She's just like, you know what? The only thing I care about is I want to find these engineers. I want to find out where their planet is at, where they're at, and I want to destroy them. So we see the end of the film. Her and David basically fly away in an engineer ship, and that's where the movie concludes. And then there's like a little brief scene at the end. We think the film's over with, but it cuts back to that escape pod, and an alien bursts out of the chest of the engineer. And that's where the movie ends. And it is absolutely badass. I love this film so much. I could watch this film a million times. I just love this film. I love that they did something different. I like the fact that, we still get a little bit of Alien, a feel of the Alien films in it. At the same time, we get to see these engineers. So we get a little tease of it in the original Alien. We see the ship, and we see the engineer exoskeleton on the engineer ship and in the original Alien. But that's it. We don't know anything about these engineers. So in this film, they actually explore who are these engineers, where do they come from, what's their purpose, and that's what we were kind of going to get with these, you know, additional sequels off of this film. Yeah, I like that. I love this film so much because it's slow, methodical, it builds suspense, and it's just an awesome, awesome story. I love this film to death. If I were to rate this film on a scale of 5 stars, I would give it a 4.8. Yes, I would give it a 4.8. I love this film. It's one of the films in this franchise that I reach for pretty much 90% of the time. If I wanna watch the Alien franchise, I'm either pulling the original Alien or I'm pulling this film. Those are the two films that I watch the most. I do watch Aliens quite a lot, but these are the two films that I reach for a lot. I just enjoy the hell out of it. I just like the fact that it explores the mythology of the engineers. I definitely would have loved to see an entire trilogy of these engineers. We got a little bit of it in Alien Covenant, but it wasn't enough to really satisfy my thirst for the story. But yeah, an awesome film. Can't get enough of it. That's my thoughts on this film, guys. Let me know in the comments section what you think of Prometheus. Do you share the same feelings for this film? Have your thoughts changed after listening to my review? I know I kind of rambled on a lot. I'm not the best person at reviewing these films. I'm going to be honest with you guys. The Alien franchise is very difficult to talk about. It's not like a lot of films where you can talk to somebody and they don't have any idea, you know, anything about the films, but they understand you at least. I talk to my girlfriend all the time about the Alien franchise, and she has no idea what I'm talking about. It's just not an easy franchise to talk about, and I'm appreciative that you all are sticking through my reviews. I probably butchered a lot of things. I'm not 100%, you know, an Alien nerd by any means. I don't know everything about the franchise. I know enough to be able to talk about it. I do enjoy talking about the franchise and sharing my thoughts on the films. And Prometheus is a really hard film to talk about. And I know I probably butchered a lot. I probably rushed through the actual plot, but I really appreciate you guys taking the time to listen to my thoughts. And yeah, tell me in the comment section what your thoughts on this film are. Where does it rank amongst the other films for you? Were you excited about the a possibility of a Prometheus trilogy? Do you like this like Ridley Scott direction? Do you like where he was going with it? And do you wish that he would have stuck with his original idea for the Alien Covenant, the sequel to Prometheus? Or did you like the direction he went with Covenant? And I will be exploring Alien Covenant in my next film, so stay tuned for that. And then on the 7th day, I'm planning on doing a review of the entire franchise. I'm going to talk about all the films, I'm going to rank the films, and then I'm going to share my thoughts on where I think the future of the franchise is going. Alright guys, hope you enjoy this film. Until next time, take it easy.